Yes, good afternoon, students, and welcome back to chapter number second, that is biological classification. And this is our concluding video of this chapter. Today we are going to end up with this chapter. Very small portion of the chapter is left behind. That is, we have to discuss about the animal kingdom. Along with the animal kingdom, we have to discuss about certain of the organisms which have not been mentioned in the classification proposed by R.H. Whittaker, such as the viruses, the viroids, the prions, and the lichens. Clear? Then we are just going to deal about with the question and answers in the very last part of the video. Clear? So talking about the very first thing, that is the animal kingdom. We have already talked about the plant kingdom and everything in detail, and here also I'm just going to give you a very superficial what to say glance of animal kingdom. Since this animal kingdom, it has been discussed in detail in your chapter number 4. Clear? So the whole of the chapter number 4 is all about what is animal classification. So talking about the animal kingdom. So when we are talking about the animal kingdom, basically these are multicellular organisms. Okay, these are multicellular organisms and eukaryotic cell type. They are having eukaryotic cell type. Cell type is of eukaryotic. They possess eukaryotic cell type. Then third, when we are talking about the animals, these are basically what to say heterotrophic in what to say nature, nature, since these organisms, they do depend upon plants directly or indirectly to obtain their nutrition. They are heterotrophic in nature. They are heterotrophic in nature, that is, they depend on plants directly or indirectly to obtain their nutrition. Clear? When we are talking about the mode of their feeding, that is, they are holozoic in nutrition. Holozoic, that is, they engulf the organism as a whole, and the complete process of digestion takes place into a cavity which is known as the gut in their body. Clear? Then talking about locomotion, most of them, they are locomotory organisms. Then talking about the sixth, that is, when we are talking about the sixth part, what to say about the mode of reproduction. Basically, they do reproduce by sexual as well as sexual method, but most of them, they reproduce by the sexual method, in which copulation between the male and female is proceeded by what to say embryogenesis, that is the formation of embryo. Clear? Then talking about the next, that is, they have got a regular or a definite growth plan, according to which their body attain a particular shape, size and form, and after that it enters into maturation phase. Next, when we are talking about the next, one thing is there, that their cell does not possess cell wall, that is they lack cell wall. And accordingly, various examples of this are, what to say, you can talk about a large number of the living organisms or animalia that you can see around you, that is the camel, the cow, the buffaloes, etc., etc., the various types of the birds that you can see around you, and a lot number of the other animals. Now switching over to the other, that is we are just going to talk about, what to say, the next topic of our chapter, that is the viruses. So when we are talking about the viruses, they have not been included into the kingdom of RH, into the 5 kingdom classification system of RH Whittaker. Since viruses, these are neither living nor they are non-living. They are connecting links between the living and the non-living world. Clear? So talking about the viruses. Viruses, when we are talking about viruses, they were very first of all discovered by Louis Pasteur. And the word virus, it means poisonous or venomous. Clear? Toxic. Word virus means poisonous or venomous, or it can be called as toxic. Clear? Third, viruses, they are neither living nor they are non-living. They are neither living nor non-living structures. That is, when they are present outside the body of the host, then they are present in the crystalline structure, but as soon as they gain entry into the host body, they become active, that is they become living. Outside the host body, they are present as non-living crystalline forms, and as soon as they gain entry into the host body, they become active. Okay, now talking about the next, their body, they are very microscopic in structure. Their body is much and more smaller than the bacteria, as they can easily pass on through the bacteriofilters. Clear? They are microscopic in structure, that is much smaller than the bacteria. Clear? Next, when we are saying talking about the viruses, their body consists of a protein covering, which is known as a protein coat, which is known as the capsid, which is made up of several capsomeres, and there is a genetic material present inside the protein coat. Protein coat called capsid. Clear? And the genetic material, when I said that the genetic material is present within them, therefore the genetic material, it is not present present in the form as it is present in the higher living organisms, but it is very simplest in its organization. Either it can be single stranded RNA, as it is present in some of the viruses that affect the plants. Clear? Or it can be double stranded RNA, or a double stranded double stranded RNA, or a single stranded RNA, as it is present in the animal viruses. It can also be a double stranded DNA, as it is present in the bacteriophages. Clear? So when we are saying that genetic material can either be RNA, so it is either RNA or DNA, not both of them are present together. Clear? They do not contain RNA and DNA together in their structure. Clear? So basically these RNA, these viruses, as I said you all, that they are inactive outside the host body, and as soon as they again entry into the host body, they become active. That is, they take over the cellular machinery of the host body, and they start replicating themselves in a very fast manner. Hence they start infecting various living organisms. Therefore we can say that they are obligate parasites. And when I am saying that they are obligate parasites, that is, they are pathogenic in nature. Clear? Pathogenic in nature, that is, they are causative agents of various diseases. Diseases including herpes, influenza, smallpox, common cold, even AIDS. These are all the diseases that are caused by the viruses in animal kingdom. And when we are talking about the plants, it is TMV. Okay, that is and a large number of, that is, curling of the leaves, then deveining of the leaves, yellowing of the leaves, etc., etc. These are all the various diseases that are caused by the viruses in the plant kingdom. Clear? So this is all about the viruses that we have to talk about over here. Now when we are talking about another thing, that is another topic, that is viroids. So when we are talking about the viroids, so when we are talking about the viroids, these were discovered by T.O. Dyer. These were discovered by T.O. Dyer. Clear? Then when we are talking about the viroids, these are even the simplest forms or the smallest organisms, much smaller than the viruses themselves. Clear? They are even smaller than the viruses. Clear? Then talking about the structure of the viroids, the structure of the viroids is very different from the virus in the aspect that they do lack the protein code, that is, the protein code or the capsid is not present in them, and they do contain only the genetic material in the form of RNA. Clear? So protein code is completely absent and contain only the genetic material in the form of RNA. Okay, then talking about the next. When we are talking about the next, that these are also pathogenic in nature, that is, they are causative agents of several diseases. For example, potato tuber spindle disease. potato, tuber, spindle disease. So this is all about the viroids. Now we are just going to proceed up with the prions. So when we are talking about the prions, these are still smaller structures than the viruses, and these do differ from the viruses and the viroids in the aspect that here they their body organization or the body structure, it is present in the form of a folded protein. Clear? So it is the folded protein which makes up the prions over here. Clear? Clear? Now they are also pathogenic in nature, and they are the causative agent of various diseases. For example, diseases as the mad cow disease in cattle, and CJDs in human beings. Clear? So this is all about prions. Now we are just going to move ahead with the lichens. So talking about lichens are symbiotic associations present between the algae and the fungi. Okay, and these symbionts, they are said to be the mycobionts and the phycobionts, as they are present between the algae and the fungi. Yeah, here both of them, since I am saying that they are present in the symbiotic association, that means both the mycobionts and the phycobionts, that is the algae and the fungi, they are benefiting each other. That is, the algae, it provides food to the fungi, and fungi, it provides shelter to the algae. Clear? These are also the indicators of pollution. That is, they do not grow in the areas of industrial pollution. Not only industrial, wherever the pollution is present, they are not seen over there. That is, they are the indicators of pollution. Clear? So this is all about the chapter, and we conclude up with the chapter over here. Now we are just going to move ahead by discussing the question and answers, and with that we are just going to conclude the video. Clear? So the very first question that is present over there is, discuss how classification systems have undergone several changes over period of time. So I have already given you all the varied steps which have been considered during the classification of living organisms by various scientists. Since various scientists have made their efforts to bring about the biological classification, and each scientist, it was having different criteria for classifying the living organisms. Therefore you have to mention all those starting from the Linnaeus, Aristotle, etc., how biological classification has proceeded on up till R.H. Whittaker. Clear? So second question is, state two economically important uses of heterotrophic bacteria and archaebacteria. Clear? So when we are talking about the heterotrophic bacteria, they help in making the curd from the milk, as I've told you all. Then second is, some of them yield antibiotics. Third is, some fix atmospheric nitrogen and enrich the soil fertility. Then fourth is, many are decomposers and help in nutrient cycling and waste disposal. Clear? Then talking about the archaebacteria. Among the archaebacteria, methanogens, they are very important and significant, since methanogens are responsible for the production of methane from the dung of ruminant animals. Clear? Then second, methanogens present in the gut of the ruminant animals helps in their nutrition. Okay. Then third question is, what is the nature of cell wall in diatoms? Clear? Cell wall occurs in the form of two thin overlapping shells which fit together as in the soap case. If you just remember that I have given you the structure of the cell wall in the diatoms, I have discussed it over there. Then it is made up of cellulose and impregnated with silica, which makes the cell wall indestructible, and hence it forms a structure which is known as diatomaceous earth, which is of large economical importance to human beings. Clear? Then find out what the terms algal bloom and the red tides signify. Clear? Algal blooms refers to the excess growth of the algae, especially the cyanobacteria, in the water polluted with inorganic nutrients. It depletes the dissolved oxygen content of the water body. Clear? Then red tides are caused by red dinoflagellates like guanolax, which undergoes such rapid multiplication that the sea appears red, and hence called the red tides. The toxins secreted by such a large number of the cells kill the marine animals like fish. Clear? Then third is, fifth question, how are the viroids different from the viruses? अभी मैंने आपको इसका आंसर दिया है और differences मैंने दिए, लेकिन again we have to give the differences in the tabulated form. So the very first point of difference between the viruses and the viroids are, they lack, when we are talking about the viroids, they lack a protein coat. But viruses, as I told you all, they do possess a protein coat called as capsid. Then talking about the viroids, they are short segments of the free RNA that is infectious. Clear? Viruses, their genetic infectious material is RNA or it can be DNA, but not both. Clear? Then third point of difference between viroids and the viruses is, viroids, they are smaller than the viruses. Viruses, they are comparatively larger than the viroids. Clear? Then talking about the viroids, fourth point, the RNA is of the low molecular weight. And talking about the viruses, the RNA is of the higher molecular weight in comparison to the viroids. Clear? So these are the 4 points of differences that you have to mention while tabulating the differentiations between the viruses and the viroids. Next is, describe briefly the 4 major groups of protozoa. If you just remember, I have given you the 4 major groups of the protozoa. That is the their classification has been done on the basis of the SS3 locomotory organelles that they possess, that is either the pseudopodia or the cilia or the flagella, and accordingly they have been grouped as amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans, and next is sporozoans. Clear? And you have to discuss in detail. I have given everything in detail over here. I have explained you everything in detail with diagrams also, along with what to say, the examples also. So you also have to mention that in detail over here. Then describe brief. Next question is seventh is, plants are autotrophic. Can you think of some plants that are partially heterotrophic? So when we are talking about the plants, they are autotrophic. Of course, they are autotrophic. And some of the plants that are heterotrophic, I have already told you what, that is bladderwort, cuscuta, and the Venus flytrap, which are insectivorous plants. So these are the heterotrophic plants. What do the term phycobiont and mycobiont signify? Here just in this video a minute or two ago I have told you what is meant by phycobiont and mycobiont. So again I am just going to tell you, phycobiont refers to the algal partner of the lichens and mycobiont refers to the fungal partner of the lichens. Clear? Next, give a comparative account of the class kingdom fungi under the following, that is mode of nutrition and mode of reproduction. So when we are talking about the mode of nutrition, Phycomycetes, saprophytic and parasitic. Ascomycetes, they are saprophytic and parasitic in nature. Talking about the Basidiomycetes, they are saprophytic, parasitic and predaceous. Clear? And talking about the Deuteromycetes, they are parasitic and saprotrophic. Clear? Then talking about the mode of reproduction, Phycomycetes, they reproduce by asexual reproduction, and asexual reproduction is by motile zoospores and the non-motile aplanospores, both of which are found within the sporangia. Clear? Sexual reproduction is by isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous and results in zygospores or oospores. Clear? Ascomycetes, asexual reproduction is by conidia that are produced exogenously on the conidiophores. Sexual reproduction results in ascospores that are produced within the asci, and asci are arranged in fruiting bodies called the ascocarps. Basidiomycetes, when we are talking about the Basidiomycetes, vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. No asexual spores have been reported. Sexual reproduction is by somatogamy, that is fusion between the two vegetative hyphae. It results in the formation of the basidiospores produced exogenously on the basidia. Then Deuteromycetes, asexual reproduction is by conidia. Sexual reproduction has not been reported at all. Clear? So all that account already I have given you in my video, and kindly have a look at my videos and read it from the book, consult it from the book itself. What are the characteristic features of the euglenite? I have given you all the characteristic features of the euglenite. That is, they are microscopic unicellular organisms, and they are they do not possess a cell wall. Instead, they possess a pellicle protein coat called the pellicle, and next they have got a locomotory organ present in the form of the flagella, which performs a whip-like movement and makes the organism rotate at the 360-degree angle, and then it makes it move about here and there. Clear? So all those points I have given you in my video. Kindly have a look at my video. Give a brief account of the viruses with respect to the structure and nature of the genetic material. Also name 4 common viral diseases. So that is the answer that should be given by me. That is, viruses are nucleoproteins with a protein coat protecting the genetic material, the nucleic acid, whether it is present in the form of RNA or it is present in the form of DNA, but not both. Again and again I am saying it doesn't contain both the nucleic acids. Clear? The protein coat is called the capsid and consists of subunits which is called as capsomeres, which are arranged in the helical, polyhedral or geometrical forms. The genetic material may be single-stranded RNA or a double-stranded RNA or a DNA. Then tobacco mosaic and cauliflower mosaic are the viral diseases in the plants. Mumps, measles, chickenpox, influenza, AIDS, etc. are the viral diseases in human beings. Then organize a discussion in your class on the topic, are viruses living or non-living? Viruses are living because they multiply within the specific host cell and they infect the healthy plants and animals. They are non-living because they could be crystallized. They can be easily very well crystallized, and they are inert outside their specific host cell. So here with this we complete up with the question answers that is given in the main exercise of at the end of the chapter, and with this we conclude up with the chapter also. Students, kindly pay attention. that you have to complete up the question answers, as I am discussing the question answers over here in the videos, and you have to do the all the question answers in detail in your homework copy, and kindly show it to me by sending it through the messages in the PDF format. Again and again I am saying, show it to me, as it is essential and compulsory for every student. Clear? So till then now I have received the question answers of only 2 or 3 students, homework of only 2 and 3 students, not all the students. So by Wednesday, coming next Wednesday, I should be getting the homework of all the students. Clear? That is strictly said. Okay, so kindly pay attention and start doing the homework in your homework copies. Clear? Till then, thank you.